Good news, surprisingly good news, the West seems to be covering the Flotilla to Gaza story quite aggressively. The story seems to be on the front page of most all of the major news media. That someone had said, Brett, you seem like a really fair guy, but it seems like when it comes to Israel, you're always really unfair. I'm willing at any turn to give Israel the benefit of the doubt. But what I've seen to date has me very disturbed. And there is a point when you accumulate enough information that you do have to take a stand. And I'm taking a stand, not against Israel, not against Israeli people. I'm taking a stand against what the Israeli occupation does to the Palestinian people. It's wrong. I know it's wrong in my heart. I know it's wrong in my mind. And I'm willing to assume, as I always do, that people are generally good, whether they be Israeli, Palestinian, or otherwise. The Jerusalem Post story starts out with an explanation about what happened, about how the IDF soldiers were mobbed. Some of the articles they mention it was international waters, some of them they don't. It seems like some writers are reluctant to tell this story, but they have to, is what it reads like to me. Because a lot of the articles say pro-Palestinian instead of humanitarian. Pro-Palestinian, and someone had sent me a comment about this, it's true, it's got some bad spin. Pro-Palestinian protesters who are sending humanitarian aid got intercepted by Israeli forces. That was this big. And then there's a paragraph and a half about the riots, the rioting and the bad behavior. So for this particular writer, the riots and the bad behavior of Muslims who were outraged became the real story. So this is a valuable lesson for people who care about the Palestinians. If you care so much about the Palestinians that you're out rioting, you're actually doing the Palestinians a great disservice, because you're taking the story away from them, where it should be, on the real event, and turning the side events into the new lead story. I'm willing to wait until an investigation, an unbiased investigation is done to make an accurate assessment about what really went down on that ship. But rather than doing the he said, she said, let's set that aside and deal with the issues that nobody is contesting. The fact that these guys dropped soldiers, armed soldiers, onto a boat in international waters. That's the story. There's no quibbling over that. That happened. Let's all agree that that happened. Let's all agree that the reason why it happened is because there's a situation, there's a blockade going on. Both the blockade and the dropping the soldiers off in international waters seem like crimes to me. The lead story really for me should be ships have gone in to take food and resources and humanitarian aid filled with not pro-Palestinian protesters, but with humanitarian activists from all around. That's how the story should read. And the key story that everybody should be able to agree on is that soldiers were dropped onto this ship to take over that ship or stop it or whatever they were going to do. But they were dropped onto the ship in international waters. That should be a key part of the story. I don't think you have the right to do that in international waters. I'm not an expert, but it doesn't sound right. Is that a provocation? Dropping armed soldiers onto a boat, is that a provocation? Wouldn't it be better if they were going to do that, to have done a little blockade themselves, did a little standoff, shoot some rifle fire over the bow, and then bump them? Going in there and getting hand to hand with them, it's almost like they knew what they were getting into. If you're anybody who cares about Palestine, don't give us reasons to have more stories that can take the lead away from the flotilla. It's a shame, because the flotilla is a great story. The riots are a negative story, makes everybody, including the Palestinians, look stupid and bad and irrational, and it also takes away, and I've already seen it, this much story about the flotilla, this much story about the riots. The riots are robbing a great humanitarian issue story from the Western media. So please, can we restrain ourselves and let the story come out, let the real story come out?